You have tuned in to Irish Illustrated Insider. It is Monday, September 16th. I'm Tim Priester with Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated, joined by John Bryce of the Football Scoop and Notre Dame with a big 66-7 victory at Purdue this weekend. Everything other than injuries, everything was pretty good coming out of Ross-Ade Stadium, but other than injuries is a little bit bigger than normal this time around. Jordan Botelho, Marcus Freeman just announced at his 12:30 Eastern Time press conference here on Monday that Jordan Botelho will be lost for the year with a knee injury. And as we found out, we were optimistic about Craig with the way he left the field, etc. But as we found out shortly thereafter, and it was officially announced today, Ashton Craig will be lost for the season. The best news is with right guard Billy Schrouth. He'll be out for a few weeks. Let's see if I can say this straight as opposed to instant analysis. They expect him to miss the Miami of Ohio and Louisville game. There's a bye week then, and then Notre Dame hosts Stanford. I think the hope is that maybe they can have him back for Stanford, but realistically, as we all know, we've gone through these scenarios before. It's more likely that Billy Schroth will be back for the Stanford game. Guys, these injuries create a trickle-down effect along the offensive line and a defensive end. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I feel like it's a great opportunity for Spindler, and it won't kill Notre Dame in this short term. I think Spindler will answer the bell here. Be interesting. Schrouth comes back healthy. What they can do with the guard position, maybe maybe it does become three to make two, like we had anticipated it might happen in August. Coogan is Tim, you made the best point. They have to change some aspects of the running game because Ashton Craig used to get out in space. I have faith Coogan does his role just fine. And he's been groomed for. Remember, he was a center a few years ago. Then surprisingly won the job at starting guard and has been a center for. You got to figure most of the summer, August camp. I think Botelho. I know we're having a question on this. I think Botelho hurts because as good as Traore is, it was a 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
The
no doubt.
1-2 punch there, the fifth year guy and the up and coming guy was a pretty good situation for Notre Dame Viper.
Yeah, I mean, Botello, we had all said it, and we heard Marcus Freeman say it today. He was playing the best football of his career. And also, in addition to that, he's so experienced that there's a value there. There's probably more sheer talent in Boubacar Traore, but he doesn't have the experience
Yeah.
that Botello had. So that's tough. On the offensive line, as a friend pointed out to me today, it's 60% of the starting offensive line that Notre Dame opened camp with is now going to be out at least probably until the Stanford game, and two of those guys are done for the rest of the year, being Charles Jagasa and Ashton Craig. So really tough. Now Notre Dame has recruited pretty darn well at the offensive line position. I think that's their best area of true depth right now. But it's a blow because you spent from basically August 14th on with that reworked starting five, and now you've got two of those guys out.
Tim, I think your point is very valid with that 1-2 tandem there at Viper
Yeah.
because so now Traore plays more snaps, which probably isn't a bad thing, but he can't
It is over
take.
11 games or
No,
that's
I'm
the
saying
thing. Yep.
he can't take them all, and the alternative is not as good as he was coming off the bench following Botelho. So I mean, I don't, I know Junior Tui Alamaka has never shown the ability to rush the
Yeah.
passer. Somebody asked me on our board about can you put Oben over there? Oben doesn't have Viper skills. He's barely showed what you need from him on the strong side of the defensive line, let alone Viper skills. So that's a blow. But I'm somewhat encouraged that Logan Thomas can give you some pass rush reps there, but he's completely inexperienced. So that obviously hurts quite a
Hey,
bit.
Tim, it is good news though that Thomas has been with the varsity the whole time. This
Yeah.
is not a call up. Like
Well,
he has been up the whole time, it seems like, since mid camp or whatever.
and so that means he's playing varsity level football on the
Yeah,
practice
yeah.
field,
And,
and
and
so
he's
that's
practicing those positions. Yeah.
yeah, so that's really good. And then that was the first thing I thought of. Well, they're going to have to change what they're doing with the center position because they're not going to be taking Coogan and putting him out in space. And that's also part of the reason why. And Tim, you said that he had previous experience there. Maybe center is Coogan's best position because he doesn't have to do a whole lot of lateral movement per se. That's dumbing it down a little bit. That's not completely true, but in general, the center position is snap the football and hold the point of attack and get a little bit of push. So, Jordan Faison is expected back. I think we're probably all a little bit more confident that than we were last week when he said that he would be back. That gives him 3 weeks in between the injury and at least on game day. And so that's a good situation. And Burnham, they need Burnham back, man. I mean, they need Burnham back.
Too.
Yeah. I mean, he was playing, but I mean, I think he's an example of, you don't want him playing too many snaps. You don't want him playing 40 or 50 snaps. I think it's diminishing returns at that point. Let's turn our attention to the quarterback situation. Riley Leonard, to paraphrase Marcus Freeman's words, that Riley Leonard provided what they needed at quarterback to run the offense to beat Purdue. Everybody wants to know whether he can throw the football down the field. He hasn't shown a lot of that. They haven't asked him to do a lot of that. He did throw for nearly 3,000 yards a couple years ago. So it's not like it's not in his muscle memory, but they haven't asked him to throw the football down the field a whole lot. I thought by and large he was 11 for 16 for 100 yards. He did some good things. He did not see Jeremiah Love downfield. He threw a worm burner on a square into Jaden Thomas that was short. His first pass, felt like he had to finagle it over the defensive end and threw it over Jadarian Price's head. But he was dynamic running the football, and that counts. It seems like, I mean, when Ian Book would do great things with his legs. People didn't get too excited about that, but that is part of his game, and it's definitely part of Riley Leonard's game. But what everybody is asking is, can he? It was asked whether this offense would be good enough to beat Georgia. Let's just talk about the matters at hand as to whether he's going to be. I mean, let's say, is he going to be good enough to beat Louisville when they come to town in a couple of weeks?
I mean, I think he is. He was good enough to beat Louisville when he was a full-time starter at Duke in 2022. I pulled this up just when we brought this up because I wanted to see what the 20 touchdowns and 6 picks looked like, what the 64% passer looked like. I mean, there's not a heavy hitter on the schedule, but it's a normal ACC schedule. He missed Clemson that year, but they didn't fill it with a bunch of junk. There's one bad game in there, and he only threw 12 passes at North Carolina A&T, and it's one of his picks. So I mean, he's 24-30 against Temple. He was 18-24 against Virginia. He was 20-31 against North Carolina. He was 12 for 24 against Miami, but he ran a couple touchdowns. He's 16-24 against BC.
What kind of yardage?
That's an ACC schedule. I mean,
what kind of yardage was he throwing for then, Tim?
Yeah,
but of course, he accumulated nearly 3,000 yards, so it had to.
Yeah, he had 328 in Temple. He had 324 at Kansas. He had 136 Georgia Tech, but he was 20 of 40 with a touchdown, a pick. I assume they lost that game. It's not showing me. He was 245, 262 against Virginia Tech, 290, 391 against Wake.
Well, he hasn't shown
a competent passing quarterback if he has a left side that can work, maybe.
Right. He hasn't shown that so far. JB, what do you think about the situation with Riley Leonard?
Yeah, as I said on instant analysis, it's a work in progress. You want to see more, certainly, absolutely. You want to see more. If we're having this same discussion 6 games into the season as opposed to just 3 games, then I think that there's a different level of concern, if not panic, at that point in time. But the bottom line is Riley Leonard is bearing the brunt of a lot of criticism because Notre Dame lost a game last week that it absolutely had no business ever losing. And he's the most visible thing to point at in that contest and in that loss. And I think a lot of this is residual from that. He's a true dual threat quarterback, but he's a better runner right now than he is a passer. How much more can he grow as a passer? We'll see. Like I noted, he's a 62% career passer from all of his time at Duke and including his 3 games at Notre Dame, but he's averaging just 7 yards an attempt over his entire career with almost 500 passing attempts. So that's where we're at with Riley Leonard. I don't think that this team needs a 2 quarterback system right now whatsoever, but I think we need to continue to see growth and development in the offense, not just Riley Leonard. And now he's going to have to try and grow and develop with a patchwork offensive line in front of him. And that's, again, tough. He didn't get spring to work with the offensive line they expected to have. Then Charles Jagasa goes down immediately in camp. And now 2 more guys that he had worked extensively with for the past 6 weeks are gone. So it's yet another hurdle, yet another obstacle that Notre Dame offensively has to overcome.
Hey, Tim, I wanted to speak to I think the fan base might have a frustration here with the progression I thought would be get through Texas A&M and then watch the offense and passing game progress as the season goes along. I am concerned that, I'm not saying this isn't the right thing to do under the circumstances, but I'm concerned that every game has to be specific to the defense you're facing with Riley Leonard, rather than just having an offense that goes out there and plays football and gets better for 11 weeks. Like, I think Marcus Freeman's doing the right thing, and Mac Denbrock, like, hey, what can Riley do to beat this team? What can he do to beat this team? Of course, that's prudent. That's your job. But a great offense would just play offense.
Right.
Not to make it so simple, just goes out and plays offense and gets better as the season progresses, regardless of the opponent.
You dictate the tempo and the style to the defense. And, I mean, Denbrock is using more 12 personnel too. So they're going back to the ground game Saturday anyway. If you're talking about doing what he had to do to beat Purdue. I want both you guys to comment, please, on what you thought, the play of Steve Angeli Saturday.
Go ahead, Tio.
No, you got it, JB.
I thought he played well overall. I think you give him a solid B to a B plus, but it's completely irrelevant in a lot of ways based on where the scoreboard was by the time he went into the game, and even with the scoreboard that way, he took a couple of sacks that he just absolutely had no business taking whatsoever. He threw the ball well. That's better. He threw the ball better Saturday than we saw him at any point in preseason camp in the limited viewing that we got. That ball to Jaden Harrison is easily the best ball that a Notre Dame quarterback has thrown this year. Probably number 2 would be the back shoulder pass that Riley Leonard had on the game-winning drive at Texas A&M. So there's a reason where this offense is, where this offensive line is. You can't have just a drop back passer right now because that's not playing to the overall strengths of the Notre Dame offense.
I thought he looked like a really good backup quarterback throwing the ball. And made one big time throw.
He did make that was a
big time throw.
Yeah,
and
I would say
bring a big time throw because I checked out Leonard's stats. So I went down a rabbit hole. So if you lose me here forever, in 2022, Pro Football Focus grades big time throws. In other words, you made an NFL throw. Leonard had 16. For like the sake of reference, Sam Hartman had 24 last year, according to if it's the same grader, I don't know. It's a different team, Duke and Notre Dame, of course. Cam Ward had 10 in his first 3 games. I'm about to go look at like what a quarterback has when they're really good, but I don't think 16 is a high number for the season for Riley Leonard in that regard. Now, Duke's offense is different, and Duke was definitely doing stuff that they had to do to win, right? I mean, they were definitely game planning to win a game. So I thought Steve Angeli did well. I knew Steve Angeli would come in and do well. First of all, Purdue was done. To be fair, Purdue was done. They had laid down at that point. But the throw to Jaden Harrison was against great coverage and a beautiful throw. I think every time Steve Angeli comes in mop-up duty or even real duty, he's going to do well. I just think when people start game planning for Steve Angeli, it's going to be harder for Notre Dame to game plan for the team they're playing than Riley Leonard.
Yeah, I would say that the other best pass of the year was the one by Leonard, a great house against Northern Illinois, the great house drop.
Yes, that was a big time throw.
And he had a little bit more separation than Harrison did.
Yeah.
That was a great pass by Angeli. I'm again just trying to be objective here, that you can't take the sacks, and I don't. That wasn't garbage time. That was a quarterback going in running the offense, and whether Purdue was whatever frame of mind they were, he had an opportunity to run the offense. And he did it. I mean, he did a really nice job. The touchdown pass to Flanagan. Any quarterback should be able to make that throw. I thought the touchdown pass to Bauman was really, really good, rolling to his left. He waited for Bauman to clear a little bit, go in the other direction.
Yeah, that was nice.
And threw a great ball. That was a good job. You can't take the sacks. I don't care what the score is, what time is. He had, in each instance, he had an opportunity to make a better decision than taking the sack. Sometimes you get sacked and you don't have an opportunity to make a better decision. He made a poor decision in all 3 instances, but he did a good job. All right, to wrap up this segment, it's running long. Questions I want to ask you 2 guys. And don't say Minchie. We're talking about, or Carr.
I was going to say Carr. Go ahead.
No. I got you.
Yes, you did.
I got you before you could do it. Okay, so we're talking about Leonard and Angeli. Who's the better passer? No, let me start.
No.
Who's the better runner?
Leonard.
Yeah,
JB?
right.
Leonard, and come on, let's not be ridiculous. Leonard. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's the better passer?
I think it's Angeli possibly because I'm counting every pass.
Yeah, I think what we saw in camp was that Leonard was a better passer than Angeli. What we saw last Saturday was that Angeli was a better passer than Leonard. I'm still waiting to see Riley Leonard throw the ball as effectively on game day as what we all witnessed him throwing the ball in the practice viewings that we got. And again, we didn't get a lot. We didn't see the duration of every practice, but we know that Riley Leonard, they chart everything, and we know that Riley Leonard completed a high level of passes, except when he tried to target Ben Morrison or Christian Gray in practice, and they struggled then. But Riley Leonard proved to be the better passer over the course of fall camp. We have not seen Riley Leonard prove to be the better passer through their shared action this year.
Who's the better quarterback?
I think Riley Leonard.
Riley Leonard.
Who gives you the best chance to win?
Riley Leonard, for the reasons I just outlined moments ago, even before you started peppering us here with these questions like we're in an interrogation room.
Riley Leonard when he's not hurt, because he was hurt versus NIU, and he did not give him the best chance to win the second half.
Yeah. And that's what Notre Dame thinks.
Yes.
I mean, that's exactly what Notre Dame thinks, right or wrong, but that's what they think. And we'll talk about two quarterback system and those kind of things, here in a little bit in the second half. But there's more to come in the second half, burning up the boards. And because you're a Notre Dame fan, don't miss the chance to see some of our cool videos on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by following Irish Illustrated on all of our social channels. The more you help us, the more we can do for you. So thanks in advance for following, subscribing, and sharing Irish Illustrated on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Coming up, segment 2, burning up the boards.
If you're coming to a game this season, you have to check out Game Day Your Way, Notre Dame's tailgate service provider. Game Day offers everything you need, including tailgate gear, catering, and even beverage delivery right to your spot. And their Irish Express transportation from Chicago allows you to tailgate while you travel to their all-inclusive party zone in South Bend. Let Game Day deal with all the hassle so you can focus on the fun. For tailgates, tickets, transportation, and more, visit GameDayYourWay.com.
Welcome back to segment 2, Burning Up the Boards. Our first question is from Joseph Ramus. With how Notre Dame performed offensively on Saturday with Riley Leonard, do you think this is a sustainable type of offense? And could you see any type of scenario in which Notre Dame would implement a 2-quarterback system?
I'm not sure it's sustainable against your best opponents, whoever that ultimately may be, whether it's Louisville or Georgia Tech or USC or Florida State by that stage of the season, which doesn't look like it now. Certainly when you get into the playoffs, I find it hard to believe. But again, that's going under the assumption that Riley Leonard has the struggles at that time that he's had through the first 3 games. And I do think I think it's fair to point out that the second half against Northern Illinois, he played hurt. Now, should Steve Angeli have played then? Probably, right? I mean,
I think so.
Yeah.
But that's on coaching.
Yeah.
Coaches have to make that call at that
Right.
point.
No,
Riley Leonard's not saying I'd rather not play. My shoulder hurts.
And credit to Riley Leonard that he would want to go ahead and play through that. But I think when you're talking about big games and advancing in the playoffs, I think it's difficult for it to be sustainable. The defense can carry you to a national championship game, but probably not this offense. And so, JB, you mentioned 2-quarterback system. Do we see a scenario with Notre Dame using 2 quarterbacks? I think we would all say probably not, but just your thoughts on a 2-quarterback system.
Yeah, I just don't think that right now that it works. Now, could you argue that maybe you give Steve Angeli a first half series every week moving forward to just further prepare him? You could make that argument. But I think this Notre Dame offense, again, is continuing to evolve. I keep saying that. I feel like a broken record because of all the new wrinkles we saw this past weekend against Purdue. I expect more along those lines, a continued evolution moving forward. Again, I think after 3 games, especially because of the outcome of Northern Illinois. The disappointment and the questions are understandable. I think it's still a little bit too early to tell, especially when you got Miami of Ohio coming in and then Louisville. And again, because of the offensive line, again, this is not a veteran offensive line like a year ago that could protect a Sam Hartman who was not very mobile and give him a clean pocket time after time. This offensive line wasn't to that point yet going into the Purdue game. Now it's lost two more starters for an indefinite period of time, one of them being your starting center that you believed was an NFL player, and he's gone for the rest of the year. So I think because of that, Riley Leonard's skill set is the best skill set and the one that Notre Dame has to continue to build upon and build around for the offense moving forward.
I don't think Angeli throws well enough to warrant a two-quarterback system. If you're going to play Angeli, I think you would just play Angeli over Riley Leonard because Leonard struggles with his left side and he struggles with accuracy for 3 more games in that situation. That Marcus Freeman even mentioned today, we need our offense to be together longer. There's veterans on this team, but they've never played with each other. Like Riley Leonard hasn't played much with Rocco Spindler and Pat Coogan and the receivers, and Riley Leonard needs the reps too. I don't see a 2 QB system working that well for Notre Dame. And that doesn't mean Steve Angeli wouldn't go out and hum to a 40-7 lead with this defense against Miami of Ohio too, when maybe Riley Leonard misses a couple throws and it makes it, I'm already talking this up too much, 28-7 instead. Steve Angeli can be an effective player. I just think they need to grow with the better quarterback, who the three of us believe is Riley Leonard, and I know that Notre Dame believes it's Riley Leonard.
And I would point out that I think the scenario right now is an overall larger indictment of the quarterback position at Notre Dame, because I touched on this repeatedly in preseason. Riley Leonard is the 5th different starting quarterback in 5 consecutive seasons. Notre Dame will have yet another different starting quarterback next season for a 6th in 6 years. Plus, there's been the offensive coordinator turnover during that time. That makes it impossible to have the type of cohesion you want from your offense to build upon from last season. To O'Malley's point, like, this team has only played 3 games together on the offensive side of the ball, no matter how veteran they are, and none of them played together as they were a year ago with the same quarterback. So there's no cohesion, there's no carryover, and then Riley Leonard missed spring on top of that. So Notre Dame has to continue to develop. Coaches have to do a better job of putting the offense in winning situations. I thought last week they did a really nice job of that. Now, can they enhance what they got out of Eli Raridan? Mitch Evans continues to be more of a passing threat right now than an every down tight end, but he's growing back into that role. Jaden Harrison needs to be more involved, like he got a couple of more chances this past weekend, on and on. So I think it's easy to pinpoint it on Riley Leonard. But because of the offensive line, I think Riley Leonard is an asset for Notre Dame right now.
If you go to a 2-quarterback system, then the trade out is, and we all said we think Angeli is or probably is the better thrower, but the trade out then is you don't have the running threat of Riley Leonard. And it's so significant to the successes that they have had already, so far this season, certainly Saturday, but in the victory over Texas A&M. If you don't have that running threat, is there enough offense to beat Texas A&M? Now, you only gave up 13 points, so you probably wouldn't need a whole lot more. But that's the scale that you're evaluating things at. And but bottom line, we don't think the Notre Dame coaching staff is going to do that. So we move forward on to game 4. Question from Gipper 11: Special teams already cost Notre Dame a game. 2 blocked field goals against NIU. Will they make a change at punter or just keep fingers crossed that James Rendell will beat the Yips?
Well, you asked a great question today, TP, of Marcus Freeman about James Rendell. I don't know that special teams cost Notre Dame the game against Northern Illinois. I think it was a team loss for the defense not getting off the field. A 46-yard field goal, you don't want it blocked, but it was. The 62-yard field goal is irrelevant in the blocked punt. But special teams hasn't been the asset that it can be, and that's from the return game on down. Rendell is their guy. They're clearly going to stick with Rendell. There's not a lot of options beyond that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone and gotten him as late in the game as they did. So Marcus Freeman saying today we have to put him in more game-like situations in practice to give him a chance to carry that over onto the field.
For those that didn't hear instant analysis, we went pretty in depth on what Marcus Freeman thinks of James Rendell. I'll just point out that Freeman, Denbrock, and Leonard just got off the hook for that NIU game, huh? Special teams cost Notre Dame that game. I saw a lot of mistakes before that field goal got blocked.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman made it very clear that James Rendell is a 5-tool punter today. Like he said, he can do absolutely everything. So
you have to read the transcript and you have to watch our instant analysis because I've never seen a punter described this way, much less a punter that doesn't punt it that well. It's really incredible how he was talked about. So that dude must look awesome in practice.
Well, I'm sure he's not fabricating what he's done in practice.
But it's so strange.
I understand. But
let's go with one tool.
If we could actually follow up with a third question, because we're always talking about confidence, the confidence of a player. So obviously that's what we're talking about with this guy. And this is a 24-year-old young man, a professional athlete prior to coming to Notre Dame. So it's just
it's weird, man. It's weird.
Well, it is, but it is still a little bit. I mean, logically speaking, you could understand why he would not have found a comfort zone yet. But and a couple things, he hasn't kicked anything into the end zone yet, so that's a good thing. He's only given up 4 punt returns for minimal yardage. The perfect punt that he had a 43-yarder at Purdue the other day where it was directional to Thieneman's, and we got a good question on Thieneman coming up. Do you see that, Tim?
Yeah.
Thieneman had to run to his right. It was later in the game, so maybe he was just satisfied to call a fair catch at that point, but it was 43 yards. It put the punt returner running laterally, and he caught it. And so it was a 43-yard punt. It was a 43-yard net, but his net is like below 36, which is awful. The good thing about what he does is, he's not a conventional American football kicker. So when he kicks it, he always gets the roll. It's going in that direction.
My favorite thing is preseason camp was people are going to have trouble catching James Rendell's punts, and now they can't catch his punt because it bounces 24 yards in front of them. So I guess they really can't catch his punts. I don't understand it, man. It's strange.
We've got another question involving James Rendell, so I won't say what I'm going to say for that question. But look, James Rendell, in the grand scheme of everything that's happened so far this year, is pretty far down the list of.
Somebody blames him for NIU. All right, here we go. Yeah. Next question is from Irish M, or Irish. It's actually Irish Shem. And he gives a lot of credit to John Bryce here, who has been absolved from any issues we had post-game. John Bryce is the only one who understands where the fan frustration is coming from based on post-game podcast. It was a great win, but Purdue is awful. Did you know that Purdue was awful, Tim? Indy went out and paid $2 million for a quarterback who can't throw. That's the problem. The backup comes in and throws a TD easily and quickly. In the pay-for-play era, expectations on quote-unquote kids have changed, especially when they become millionaires.
JB, take it away. Probably given a little too much credit there. Also, Riley Leonard is making 7 figures at Notre Dame. He is not making $2 million. But anyway, yeah, I do think to the questioner's point, things have changed. We've talked about it. The role of the general manager, things are changing with roster management moving forward. If Notre Dame has another inexcusable loss, then I think absolutely everything is on the table. But if you continue to grow and evolve this offense with Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard continues to show improvement from a passing standpoint and improvement from a health standpoint, then you continue moving forward with that. The bottom line is you've got to win every game up until USC to have a chance to then make a playoff statement. And so whatever Notre Dame has to do to win is what Notre Dame has to do to win. I do agree, and I've talked with coaches who agree, and Deion Sanders has flatly said, these guys want to get paid like pros, but they don't want to get coached or treated like pros. Well, he's right. These guys are getting every player on Notre Dame's roster is making NIL money. So that changes the equation, that changes the expectations, that changes the demands.
How many yards per punt yard is Rendell making in NIL money? We could look into that too if somebody finds out. Somebody asked me if Rendell was making money in NIL. I said, I hate to tell this to you, but all the homegrown kids that are never going to play and transfer out are also making money too. So go ahead and ruin your day on the message board with that one.
Tim, I think you and I would have, we had a lot of people that say
Those
good
poor
things
freshmen
about.
that only make 100,000. Sorry.
We had a lot of people, a lot of players to point out that played well on Saturday. And if Riley Leonard had played poorly like he did against NIU, we would have talked about that. But he didn't play poorly. He played well. He missed. We've already talked about a couple things that he missed, but he played winning football and led Notre Dame to a massive victory. And Purdue was awful, yeah, but the line kept dropping down to
Purdue was
7.5.
awful, and Angeli played too, though.
Yeah, well, that's true too. And
okay,
the line,
so Purdue's awful. So Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price didn't do anything right. They tackled terribly. They let Jadarian Price score when he was running up the clock.
Yeah, that was his initial intention.
Yes,
when he got to football. But Riley Leonard didn't play poorly Saturday. He missed a couple plays, but he didn't play poorly. So it didn't seem like leading with that was the way to go with.
I should have acknowledged it. People are right. Here's the problem. It's the only interactive show we have. So I acknowledge the questions. I'm looking at the questions, trying to pick one out. I'm like, just keep looking at all the questions. Holy cow. There's a totally different theme going on here. It's only the little percentage that didn't go right. And I brought it up. I shouldn't have. I should have just had an interactive show that did not include the questions. That would have been the best idea.
And I would follow up to say, like, the thing about the Northern Illinois game also is that it exposed how razor thin the Notre Dame offensive margin for error is if Riley Leonard isn't running the football and being utilized as a capable runner who can also hit enough in the passing game to make it an effective offense. When he's not a capable runner, the offense is disjointed, and Notre Dame has been exposed as having an extremely thin margin of error on offense that's probably going to be even thinner for a couple of weeks while they rework this offensive line. Maybe not. Maybe they're able to take the second half of playing with those guys and start to propel further forward this week against Miami. But until we see what Riley Leonard does this week behind a rebuilt offensive line, I just think it's too rash to judge all of those elements yet. But it's understandable for sure because they lost an inexcusable game and got exposed in the process.
And the silver lining is that undoubtedly Irish made a ton of money Saturday because when he saw the line go down to 7.5 and knew how awful Purdue was, I'm sure he made a ton of money on Saturday. Now, look, we understand the frustration, but we have a lot of things to talk about, and talking about how awful Riley Leonard is time after time after time after time doesn't fill all the airtime. So we thought it was important to point out some of the great performances against that awful Purdue team, and so we did that. But I am the most guilty of all when it comes to being overly sensitive about some of the criticism that goes out there. And it's not because I'm a homer and don't want to say anything negative about Notre Dame, but I think there's a balance, and we try to hit that balance of what went well and what didn't well and try to point all of that out. We have a question from Callahan Auto Parts. Purdue definitely didn't put up a significant challenge, but after 3 games, this Notre Dame secondary continues to shine. The depth showed well this game. Are there any games before USC that may challenge this secondary to see how good they can be?
I did write in the preseason that Notre Dame's best unit is the secondary, but it's going to be proven easily because the best quarterback they face is I don't know who. And I mean, now I think it's out when they go out to USC. At the time, you thought it could have been Connor Wegman, which just seems insane. But the quarterbacks they face compared to the quarterbacks they normally face, it's the reality. They're not that good. The Notre Dame secondary is better than every passing game. They'll get challenged by Louisville. Brom's going to have something for Notre Dame, but that's not Louisville with Caleb Williams. Like we need to be honest about these things. It's still a different talent level of quarterback.
Yeah. Louisville, I think, as a team, is averaging about 327 yards passing per game. So that's the one that I think can test them a little bit. And then Stanford has the really nice receiver, Alec Aomanor, I think. So that's one guy, but I don't think Stanford collectively will challenge. I do think Louisville will challenge them. I have noted before that Jeff Brom felt going into last year's game against Notre Dame that the Louisville staff had a headset advantage. We'll see if that carries over into this year. But Louisville, I would expect to try and challenge Notre Dame. And I think Louisville will have to try and challenge Notre Dame because I just don't think there are too many teams that are going to be capable of winning the line of scrimmage and running consistently and effectively on this Notre Dame defense.
I think there is a good chance that Miller Moss is the USC quarterback is the best quarterback on the schedule. Tyler Shuck, the transfer from Texas Tech, who is at Louisville, is completing 68.4% of his passes through 2 games. They haven't played 3. He has 6 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and he and Jeff Brom is his coach. So yeah, I mean, they definitely have a chance to be one of the challengers. I think Anthony Colandrea, the quarterback at Virginia, the younger quarterback that won the competition there, could be that guy too. He's throwing for 300 yards per game. Although he's thrown 5 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. But Tim, you're right. There is no Caleb Williams in this group. And I think I haven't seen.
They started with CJ Stroud and ended with Caleb Williams.
Yeah. And I haven't watched a whole lot of Miller Moss, but I haven't seen Miller Moss do anything really bad. So by the end of the season, he could be really, really good. Looking to upgrade your wardrobe? Founded by Notre Dame alum Go Wang, you've seen ESQ's custom clothing on the player walk and all of your favorite players and coaches. With over a decade of making the best bespoke clothing available, ESQ will help you look and feel your best. From a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt or bomber jacket, or that perfect tuxedo for wedding season, check out esqclothing.com and book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention Irish Illustrated and get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. And I want to remind everybody again that we will be at ESQ's outlet in Chicago at, I believe, 4:30 Chicago time, 5:30 Eastern time on Wednesday to have a podcast with the Notre Dame Club of Chicago. And I'm expecting to upgrade my wardrobe that day as well.
Our next question is from Irish from A2. Please never use the names. Actually, it's a statement, and I agree with his statement. Please never use the names Kyle Hamilton and Harrison Smith when talking about number 31 from Purdue.
Guilty, man. Guilty. You believe that? You believe that?
Hey, I threw in Alohi Gilman.
Oh, my goodness. Dylan Thieneman did not look like either one of those two guys. First of all, I mean, have you ever seen a defense align a single high safety 25 to 30 yards off the ball? The guy is as the ball's being snapped, he's running toward the line of scrimmage. How is that good? How does a guy get his feet set? How is that good? What is that?
TP, I said going into last week, I didn't think that was a well-coached Purdue team. They had 2 weeks to prepare for Notre Dame and did that. Their faithful should be absolutely livid. Yeah, I don't understand that. I didn't see out of that player Saturday the hype that has surrounded him.
He was he was a freshman All-American and National Freshman of the Year. Let's not,
I know that. Yeah.
Football Writers Association Freshman of the Year.
No, I know what his accolades are. I'm saying we didn't witness them on Saturday, and then we didn't witness. I don't understand the coaching of having him. At one point, it was 28 yards off the line of scrimmage, almost like he was in punt safe. So,
I mean, how can a guy get his feet set? Tim, was it before?
He didn't get his feet
set. No, he didn't. Was it before the game? I said it to you, or somewhere during the week after watching film. I said, he had 106 tackles last year, but he's not a great tackler. He misses a lot of tackles.
A productive big play. He's a highlight reel guy that must not make any plays outside the highlight reels because holy smokes!
I saw the whole damn highlight reel and didn't see the low light reel.
Yeah, you did. You saw it last Saturday.
Yeah, Jadarian Price saw plenty of it.
I got a chance to see it live up close.
From K. Beasley, 3 games in this season. How would you rank the transfers, impact or grade? I'll read off the transfers. You guys rank them, and I'll chime in as needed. Riley Leonard. He's a transfer from Duke, by the way. He got paid in the NIL department.
Oh, Riley Leonard. I didn't put him on the list.
I gave Leonard a C because he helped lose the game to Northern Illinois. So I gave Leonard a C. Because you get an F for Northern Illinois, and you get a A for A&M, and you get a A for A and F is a C for me.
Yeah, I ranked them in order, but I would agree with the C, maybe C minus, just because of the magnitude of Northern Illinois. But again, he was hurt. He was playing hurt.
If you're out there, got to go with it.
I'll probably go B minus on Riley Leonard. I was double checking his stats. He's right at around 610 yards of offense for that he's led Notre Dame to through just 10 quarters of action. 2 of those quarters, he was obviously very hurt, and part of his game was taken away. Coaches should have handled that situation better. But B minus, he's 610 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's left some plays on the table.
JB, and Tim and I have said this. You would have gone to Angeli in the second half against Northern Illinois.
Once Riley, I understand letting Riley open up the second half as your quarterback, but once you made the decision not to run him and he was in enough pain that he couldn't throw effectively, then I put that game on the coaches.
Yeah.
RJ Oben.
I would have him last.
Yeah, if you're ranking,
I would have him last with Rendell ahead of him, just because Rendell hasn't hurt them. Rendell has, although not by design.
We've got too much about James Rendell.
I know.
That's too much.
All
right, who's your number 2 guy? We're doing this differently. Who's your number 2? Who's your number 1? Let's go. Who's your number 1 transfer so far?
Bo Collins for me.
Bo Collins for me.
That's mine as well.
I have Jordan Clark. I have Jordan Clark number 2.
Yep, me too. And he would be number 1 possibly if he got to play in that NIU game, but the scheme did not allow that. That's not on the coaches. That's the fact they couldn't stop the run. So number 3, I have Jeter because it's not his fault. He won the A&M game. It's not his fault that he got the second kick blocked.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. He's been, he was Money Mitch against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And the blocks, certainly at least one of the 2 blocks was not his fault against NIU.
This is where it gets tough. Do you have Rod Hurd next?
I've got Jaden Harrison.
You got Jaden Harrison? Okay.
I did. I have Hurd next.
And then I had Harrison. So I assume you have Harrison then Hurd, right, Bryce?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Because Harrison, while I think, again, we've all said that we believe he left yards on the field against NIU, he did return that last kickoff out far enough to give Notre Dame a chance to get into feasible field goal attempt range rather than trying an ill-conceived 62-yarder.
He has the longest catch of the year, too. It all counts.
But who threw that? Who threw that to you?
I know. Well, I'm saying if we're counting the throw, the catch counts, too. It's got to be there.
And then we have
Purdue
Mitchell.
defender counts, too, for stinking.
Mitchell would be next. Mitchell is...
Do you remember how bad people got at me when I said I hadn't seen anything about Chris Mitchell in August game?
Still haven't. He had a catch somewhere along the line there too, but he's a
wide receiver.
Right. He hasn't. He didn't catch the ball well in camp, or not consistently. I think he had a slant against A&M that he dropped.
He had a couple against
NIU. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't. It's got to be. It's got to be in tandem with the quarterback. I get that part.
Yes.
But,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bo Collins gets an A, as we discussed, or is number 1 on the list, because he's found a way to flourish even with the offensive struggles. Mitchell has not, and Mitchell has not been targeted as much as well.
That's a great point. Bo Collins has played better than his quarterbacks have passed.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Question from Irish B. Does Kennedy Urlacher see Urlacher? Is it Lacker or Lacker? I think it's Lacker. Does Kennedy Urlacher see 10 to 15 snaps a game?
Well, he's pretty close already because he plays on so many different special teams units. But yes, Marcus Freeman made it clear today that Kennedy Urlacher is performed really well last Saturday. Now he has to carry it over to the practice field this week. But I don't think you're going to take out an X Watts or Schuler to start playing Urlacher more. But Urlacher can continue to carve a role with this team. I don't think he's at 10 to 15 snaps on defense at this point in time.
No, because they like Rod Hurd, and I like Rod Hurd in the dimes and all the different packages as a backup nickel. But I want to see Kennedy Urlacher get 5 snaps in one series against Miami of Ohio in the first half because I want to see him bundle somebody. It's more fun.
Well, the performance against Purdue, I don't care who they're playing. It didn't even matter.
Yeah, does he count against Purdue? Or Purdue's awful.
No, I mean, it doesn't even matter what the opposing bodies on the field are. It was flat out an incredible debut at safety. But interestingly enough, today, when asked about it, Marcus Freeman was quick to say, essentially, I would like to see the same kind of performance on the practice field as what he did in the game. And look,
No, I hope not. He's going to hurt somebody if he does
with
that.
with preparation being at the forefront of virtually every conversation that Marcus Freeman begins with the media, you got to you got to practice. Come on, man. Especially
he
when
mentioned freshmen. He said freshmen don't always practice 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. Well, that's probably a challenge to Kennedy Urlacher. Sometimes you don't challenge guys in the media. He's challenging Kenny Urlacher is all over social media because of two things. Number one, his last name. And number two, because he has the last name and was bundling fools out there against Purdue when he was in the game. It was incredible. So, but if it was Kennedy Smith, he would not be all over social media. It's Urlacher's son. And sure, Marcus Freeman wants him to become a player he can count on to put in there when a Don Schuler needs a break.
And Jaden Mickey took the largest hit that he's taken as a Notre Dame player from Kennedy Urlacher.
Yeah, that was tough. I didn't know what was Urlacher doing though on that play? He was trying to hit a guy before he thought the ball was coming.
I'd have to look
10
at
yards
it again.
downfield. It couldn't be like trying to jam him. That was weird.
I don't know. I think he thought the ball was there. It was here instead of there. That was the 54-yard play that set up the only score. But Mickey took a shot on that. Question from Lowlander would be interested to know the ADOT, which stands for average depth of target for each quarterback, and get your analysis. I don't have these numbers.
I do have them.
Okay, good.
Incredibly low.
We can talk in general terms, but
incredibly low for Riley Leonard at 6.5 and 12.9 for Steve Angeli. Obviously, Riley Leonard has thrown more passes than Steve Angeli. I can do a quick check and see what Riley Leonard's was pre-injury while you guys discuss amongst yourselves.
Go ahead, JB.
Yeah, I mean, Angeli has shown a willingness to try and push the ball downfield more so than Riley Leonard. It's limited sample size. They pushed the ball downfield in the Sun Bowl against the Oregon State team that was a shell of itself by that point in time. Although Angeli was working behind a rebuilt offensive line at that point. So, but Angeli doesn't run the football. And again, right now, this Notre Dame offense has to have a dual threat quarterback. Riley Leonard has to be more of a threat passing as part of that dual threat quarterback.
And Leonard's was no better against A&M. So there's nothing to add to that. It's 5.6.
Would you take Sam Hartman back as a starter?
No.
I agree. I just want to throw that out there.
That's a bonus question that wasn't on the list. I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
This is a BS exam.
First, there's rapid fire, and then there's bonus questions. No, actually, I like that better. Don't take questions in overtime, though. That always goes wrong. So, next one is from Eddie Davis. Which injury that occurred is going to be the most difficult for Indy to overcome? That's a great question, and I assume he means out of the Botello, Craig, and Schrouth, because we assume Burnham will be back soon unless we're getting the Brian Kelly injury treatment, in which case he will.
Yeah, I mean, I took it as Craig Botello, Schrouth. I would place Craig first, Botello second, and Schrouth third. But I could, if you give me a good argument, I mean, it's a great question because I think it's really, really close.
Oh, I'm tired of Andy Davis's questions. He's on here every week. I would completely agree that it's Ashton Craig's injury because the sum of the parts on the defensive side of the ball are so much more than Jordan Botello. Ashton Craig, I'll reiterate, is a guy that the coaching staff has very candidly said they believe will be an NFL player. So, and I think an NFL player with a bit more upside than what we viewed Jordan Botello, who's been developing into a really nice college player. So to me, it's Ashton Craig and then probably Billy Schroth and then Jordan Botello.
I'm going to go Craig Botello Schroth just because I assume Schroth comes back, and I love Boubacar Traore as a not every down player with Botello. Those two are going to be a problem all year long for defenses.
No doubt.
Martin Evenflow, rank your biggest areas of concern. Here we go again. James Rendell, Riley Leonard not seeing open receivers, lack of explosive plays by the wideouts, or injuries to key players on both lines, which is the same guys.
John, please, you first.
Repeat that because my screen just went dark.
So you either have the punter that punts the ball short, Riley Leonard for not seeing the open guys deep, Lack of explosive plays by the wideouts because Riley Leonard's not seeing the ball deep, or injuries to key players on the lines. That's going to impact all of this.
The injuries, because you're Notre Dame, you're hoping to play a 14 plus game schedule. And so to me, it's the injuries that are most concerning. And then Riley Leonard needing to do more downfield would be my next one. Because again, Notre Dame hasn't lost a game because of the punter, and he's put now 5 of 14 kicks inside the 20, and they didn't give up any return yards last week on a 38-yard average. So that's not flipping the field, but that's 4 first downs of real estate.
Yeah, the problem with Rendell is the optics. It's not the impact that it's had on the team. And could it at a certain point? Yeah, when you're at your own 20, you punt, you want to flip the field, and he hasn't shown the ability to do that. But that's definitely the last for me. And the injuries, like we're talking about 3 significant football players for Notre Dame, 2 on the offensive line, 1 on the defensive line.
Hey, Tim, I bet you they are 3 of our top 16 preseason is my guess, if not 17 then. That's pretty high.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And then I don't know, lack of explosive plays by the wideouts is tied to the Riley Leonard not seeing wide open receivers. So those kind of blend together. But, Riley Leonard just I don't care about the Jeremiah Love, not seeing him downfield so much as you just got to be able to, you got to be able to make the throws that you have to make. And he wasn't able to do those largely because he was banged up in the second half against Northern Illinois. But
mine is injuries, then Leonard, then I think the explosive plays by the wideouts will still come when Leonard sees them. That works out. Or he hits stride. Let's be realistic here. And then Rendell would be last because, as we found out today, James Rendell is a 5-tool punter in practice, as Bryce pointed out.
Copyright infringement.
Yep. Sorry.
All right, man. We're going to end it up here with it's Abby Be Happy.
All
and
right.
I saw the picture, and her question is, I just need to know if the beat writers in the stadium press box ever look around the stadium and feel bad for all the fans melting across from them.
I have noted before that I don't care what the weather is because I'll be inside, and I just care about when I have to wear the sport coat, which we have eschewed in the 2 hot games and will continue to do until it's nice weather. Tim Priester and John Bryce.
Yeah, I do feel badly for them. My wife sometimes has to go to the games as well, and sometimes she's out in the elements when that's the case. And I've told her before, like, gosh, you should just go home. So now I will say,
game number 2, that would have been a great time to go home.
I will say I had a couple of years where I was a sideline reporter, and I was exposed to every single element. And I also was in a shirt and tie and dress slacks every one of those games. And I had incredible heat because I was in the Southeastern Conference. And then I also had a game at Missouri where I had to bundle up and wear UGG boots because the wind chill that night in Missouri was like -3. So I have experienced all the elements outdoors, but miserable would have been the term I would use at Texas A&M and as you've been out in the bleachers this past week at Purdue.
I remember that.
I would have changed professions had I had to do that. But I always wanted to be a sports writer. Look, we do get a taste of it a little bit before the game, and
I wouldn't go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, Tim, come on.
For about 12 minutes.
We got unlimited water bottles too, so nobody's gonna feel sorry for us.
Then we have to walk up all those steps, and then we get to the elevator.
We don't get the tailgate. I'll say that. Would you trade? Here's what I would pose, then asking the question back, since there are no rules this week and there's pop questions being added and everything else. So now I'm turning the tables. Would you give up your ability to tailgate and to also leave immediately after the game, or when it's 42-0 at halftime and you want to start driving back from West Lafayette? Would you give all that up to be in climate controlled press boxes?
They have to work 3 hours after, right?
Listen, I'm not even talking about the afterward. Nobody's gonna feel sorry for us. To
I miss is tailgating. The number one thing I miss is tailgating. There's an irony that Northern Illinois was the best weather, by the way, because usually the worst weather game in South Bend is the Northern Illinois game. They get to stay the whole time in the beautiful weather. I miss tailgating. I remember how hot it was in the stands for some games. Georgia Tech, 1997 when they were handing out wet towels because they were worried about people, and also the toilets didn't work. That was fun when they rededicated the stadium. Georgia Tech 2007. The Colorado
Oof.
game when I was a kid was like 90. It just felt awful. It was the hot games at Notre Dame Stadium when you're on the wrong side are rough. And I have been to an Alabama game in September. It's a different kind of hot, man. If I was outside at A&M, imagine A&M 3:30 game. Good steaks. Are you kidding me? That would
Yeah,
be...
that would have been rough. I get the quote worst part of our job. We have awesome jobs. Is the 4 hours that we still have to work after the
I
game is
thought you were
over.
going to say walking up the steps.
It's walking. No, it's the you know what you okay, hey, the game's over. Well, it's not.
It's the night
not
game,
over.
4 hours. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah, when it's 1:30 a.m. But you know, we got a great, don't we? We get to do podcasts.
Oh yeah, no, that is the only problem is the night game and the blue goal game. I'm on record. Well, I saw in the blue goal game this guy caught a pass. So why isn't he playing? Well, because it was the blue goal game, and that's why he caught the pass.
All right, we're wrapping up there. We appreciate you joining us. Once again, this has been Irish Illustrated Insider. We'll talk to you on Thursday.